Hi, I'm Maria Theoharis or Velo Sews on social media. Welcome back to Sew Over 50 podcast on Sew Organised Style. Grab a cuppa and relax with us. On Sew Organised Style podcast, I begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we record this podcast and pay respects to the elders past and present. Thanks for joining us on Sew Over 50 podcast on Sew Organised Style. Sew Over 50 intersects with all communities. We're a community that is sew over ageism. Wiz, or at Wiz_G on Instagram, was recently featured in Sew Over 50 stories. She sews great clothes and her creations have lots of love in them. And that's why I've asked her to be on the podcast. Thank you for being today's Sew Over 50 guest.
Thank you so much, Maria, for asking me to be on this podcast. So I'm very happy to be here.
How did you develop your online name?
It's quite simple. In fact, Instagram handle is my oldest name, my oldest online name. And it's very simple. Wiz, my first name, and the G from my family name. And that's Gijzen. It's very Flemish name, Gijzen. So that's the G. I also have a blog, What I Sew. I started it, I think, the end of 2017. And I started Instagram, I think, about August or July 2015. And my blog name is What I Sew. And then you see it's composed by the three letters of my name. W-I-S.
It is.
I started the blog and then I was thinking about a very good blog name and checking with the children and my husband and friends. And there was, I think I had, a zillion propositions and it never clicked. And suddenly What I Sew, and it's with the initial, the three letters of my name. So unfortunately, I love blogging, but it's in hibernation. Last year, I only wrote one post, and it was about my sewing of 2020.
Right.
And so far now, I didn't even write one post. But a month ago or something, I asked in stories on Instagram, I did a poll. Do you still want me blogging? And it was, more than 80% wanted me to blog again. So I feel it, but time is the biggest issue. It's also because English is not my first language, so it takes a lot of time to write it in English. And it's my daughter who is my editor, and thanks to her, it's really good written in English. So that I wanted to blog again.
It's good to have that encouragement from people who follow you on Instagram. But as you say, you've got to write it and then it has to be edited. And that takes time.
Because at the moment, time is it's the thing that I need a lot. I don't have a lot of time for these hobbies. Because it's a hobby.
What made you start sewing?
It's a long story. I'm 61 years old now.
Great.
And I started to sew intensely at the age of 20. So that's about 40 years ago. At that moment, I was a student here in Gent. I was studying history, and that's also my profession. I'm a history teacher. Then I followed a 2-year sewing course. Well, we started with a straight skirt, and we learned everything with couture techniques. So every skirt was lined, a lot of hand stitching also. Everything was basted, and you had to make tags.
Yeah.
So it was a very traditional way of sewing. Yeah, I liked it, and I bought my first sewing machine at the moment. It is, maybe if you saw it, I still have it. It's an orange Toyota. And then I started sewing everything. I sewed for myself, for my husband. Then I got kids, so for the children. I also sewed my wedding dress. It was very modern. It was a straight dress. Things for the house, upholstery for the sofa. I sewed from the beginning of the 80s until in the mid-90s. And then I had to stop because I had 3 little children and a full-time job. And I didn't have any time anymore. In the mid-90s, I had to stop. And at that time, I had a lot of fabric and I had a lot of patterns. PDF patterns didn't exist. I had a lot of patterns like Burda, patrones, knipmode is Dutch. I had a lot of pattern books and patterns. And after a few years, I gave away everything. So all the fabric and the fabric leftovers, I went to the youth organization of my daughter so they could do activities. I didn't sew anything in this period, not even a button. But then the internet came and the world changed and there were blogging started and I started to read some blogs and also some sewing blogs. And now we are in 2000s and I think in 2013, well, it started to itch and I wanted to sew again because, of course, I had more time because children were then adults. And in September 2013, I went to my local fabric shop here, still here where I bought my fabric in the 80s and the 90s. And I picked a piece in the bargain basket.
Yeah.
It was about 1 meter, I think. And I sewed an A-line skirt. And I never stopped. So,
good on you.
So there's September 2013. So yeah, in fact, you could say it opened the floodgates. And I haven't bought any ready-to-wear clothes for me since May 2014. And then in August 2015, my last son, he moved out. I'm using his room as my sewing room. So that's now 7 years. And then I started to sew everything. And I met the sewing community. So much was changed. PDF patterns, that was totally new for me. Indie designers, that was new. A blind zipper, that was new. The first time I had a pattern that asked for a blind zipper, I used a regular zipper.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because I didn't knew what it was. So I used a regular zipper and you see it. I still have that skirt. So you see it in the back there is the blind zipper. It's an exposed zipper. But then thanks to blogs and online tutorials, YouTube, I learned a lot of the new techniques and methods. But I had my basic knowledge from when I was 20, and it's like riding a bike or like swimming. You don't dislearn it. It's practice that it's doing it that makes you accelerate your skill, improve your skill.
Yeah, you improve your skill. That's right.
Yeah.
Can I jump ahead? Because you've talked about, you sewed in the 80s and you stopped around the 90s and then you came back. When did you discover the Sew Over 50 community?
I started Instagram in 2015.
Yep.
And I think I discovered it through Instagram.
Yes.
I think about August 2018.
Yep, that's when they started. That's right.
When they started, I saw a post and I was immediately attracted and intrigued because at that time I was 58 in 2018. I thought it was wonderful. And I think I used the Sew Over 50 hashtag after that on every photo I post, because maybe not with when there are some family photos. But then a year later, I had the opportunity to meet Judith and Sue at the Sewing Weekender in Cambridge in 2019.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the end of August 2019, 1st of September 2019. And that was really amazing because Cambridge and England is not so far from Belgium. So we go with Thalys, the train. And that was a fantastic experience because it was a meetup with like-minded people. I still have a very warm feeling when I think about it. And I was really convinced that after that weekend, I would go to every sewing weekender, but then, disaster, the corona blocked it. But I love the online sewing weekenders, but it is really fantastic to meet the people in real life. And why was I immediately attracted to this community, to the Sew Over 50 community? Because never have I let my age determine what to sew, what I sew, what I wear, which colors I use, which patterns I use. Last year there was this issue that there was this in a magazine that someone said, you can't wear florals after.
Yes, I remember that.
That's why I am so glad that Judith and Sandy and a lot of other women started this over 50 community and put the finger on the issues that still are in the world about older women.
Making sure that in social media that we are visible.
I love this action that's so over 50 visible in magazines and pattern companies. And it's improved, but there's still a lot of work. And I love the So Over 50 community because they are so diverse and they embrace the diversity. And because that's the world. There's so many people, types of people. I want to look at the world, and I think I look at the world with a broad horizon.
Yes.
They stand for it, for this broad point of view, not a narrow point of view. And that's what I love about this community. I also love that it's always a tongue-in-cheek with the actions and the challenges. And I think that's a plus point too of this fabulous So Over 50 group.
You're the first one who's mentioned that, I think.
Yes.
The way the So Over 50 community embraces issues and embraces them in a way that is to the point, but it's encompassing and you're being hugged.
Yes.
It's a very good feeling and it makes a lot of people feel very safe.
Yes, that's so true. That's so true. That's what I like about it and appreciate about it too. They created a very safe environment on the social media, and yes, where everybody can settle down and feel comfortable. Yeah,
very much so.
Yeah. That's a bit emotional. Okay.
On that heartfelt note about the safe environment that So Over 50 has built for us from Weiss, we'll finish part 1 of her podcast here. You'll hear more from Weiss in her future on-call podcast. Listeners, make sure you direct message Judith and Sandy on the So Over 50 Instagram account to let them know you want to contribute a guest post for the So Over 50 community. Coming up on Instagram is the next So Over 50 Live hosted by Bird and Molly on the 31st of May. Bird will lead this chat with Pauline Bruce of So You Think You Can, and she's the co-creator of the hashtag SoHackable Challenge. I hope you'll join them live. The recording of So 50 Live will always be available on the So Over 50 account. This episode of So Organised Style podcast was produced by me, Maria Theoharis, with permission of Wiz, sound by bensound.com. You can subscribe to So Organised Style podcast, but with an S, not a Z, on all good podcast apps. Make sure you go back and listen to over 140 free So Over 50 podcasts and listen to your So Over 50 friends. There are now over 330 podcasts on So Organised Style. We look forward to joining you in your sewing room next time. Stay safe, everyone.